Hey guys, Rob from Georgia here with you, aka VHS82 apostrophe, with my ongoing Space 1999 series into year 2 with episode 29 with all that glisters. And with a word like glisters, you're kind of hopeful that maybe you're in for something of a treat. But the title actually I find comes from perhaps, I think this was a trivia thing, Shakespeare's The Merchant of Venice. All that glisters is not gold. And in this case, our heroes of Moonbase Alpha are duped by a bit of fool's gold, I guess. Let's first release on October 28th, I think it is, 28th, 76. Ray Austin directs, and this would be the last one that he would, for reasons I'll explain here shortly. But something I rarely ever do, I'm just going to share the first paragraph from Muir's Exploring Space 1999 reference guide. If you do not have it, and Space 1999 is something that you really want to get into, or already maybe have started to, definitely is an absolutely outstanding reference guide, full of synopsis and commentary and just a lot of good stuff. But anyways, in his opening paragraph on the synopsis, Muir writes, when Moonbase Alpha's main computer reports that a nearby planet possesses the rare and vital mineral milganite, Commander Koenig leads a mission to recover the mineral for Alpha's life support system. Seen that one before, right? With Tony, Helena, Maya, Alan, and geologist David Reilly aboard, the Eagle soon lands on this desolate world. Instrument readings indicate a large milganite deposit nearby in a cavern, and the Alpha team is quick to examine it. What they discover is not milganite, but rather a strange, glowing mountain of orange rock. When Reilly cuts off a sample of it, it bleeds and utters a scream of pain. Yeah. Space 1999 Shout put out a outstanding box set that I'm confused. I think I actually saw it up on Amazon again. You might want to check that out if you haven't, if that's something you've been wanting to get. But this is an episode that, for all intents and purposes, I think the beginning of the slide is here. This is an episode really lacking in a lot of things. The writing, there really isn't much to the episode. In fact, much of the episode really, it just dragged. It really dragged for me. There's not really much going on except the core. It begins with an interesting premise, except that we're dealing with a rock that is a living organism, but somehow has the means of sending out some kind of, I don't know, telepathic control wave or something that can fool the computers on Moonbase Alpha to make it think that what in fact they're looking for is in fact there on the planet. But it is fool's gold because these rocks apparently are dying. They're starving. They depend on water, as we'll find out later on in the episode. A substance that this planet, excuse me, has been depleted of. We're not told exactly why. It's just not really known why. Somehow, the rain stopped falling and the water eventually got soaked up by all these living rock organisms, and really they're dying out. And as it would happen, Moonbase Alpha just happens to be looking for this milganite substance for their life support systems, and they get sort of duped into a false signal of sorts, which is an interesting way to begin if it wasn't that there's such a leap in the organism that is somehow doing this. And really, this is all, there's not really much to the show. They land Koenig and his crew and the geologist, which is funny, brings to mind the geologist from Prometheus. It's funny how things later on will go back and tap into certain characters, or and even the cowboy character. The geologist is more like something like an Irish American Texas cowboy or something. I don't know. It's kind of a weird blend of the character. But you do got the the Texas character on Alien Covenant as well, right? And so once they get down there, and once they actually cut a part of this rock material, not knowing really what it is, and once things start to take a turn for the worst, there's not much there. I mean, you know, the rock is, for all intents and purposes, a benevolent creature, but when push comes to shove, is able and willing to do the absolute worst to get what it needs, and that is what it needs to survive. The problem with this episode, I think, really is it doesn't take the horror element near far enough. I mean, this really, see, you know, with the lighting, you know, things are, you know, and the cinematography are meant to be a lot more claustrophobic. The lighting is dark. The cinematography just makes you, it makes everything feel like things are, well, if you're into horror as much as I am, better than what they seem. But it sort of just drags out. There is one moment, Maya, you know, with her transforming ability, will transform into this rock to try to communicate. And as a result, I think she does this twice. The second time, we find out this rock has this ability to fuse. So like if pieces have been cut off, they can fuse back together, thus creating one sort of rock element. And there's a moment when Maya, who has become one of these, you know, an imitation of a rock to communicate, which she is unable to do. There's a moment where she almost gets fused with the actual rock material, and even though that scene in itself doesn't get stretched to the limit of what it could have been, it is maybe the most horrifying moment, because you realize that what is about to happen to her can't be undone, and she is pretty terrified at the idea of what is about to happen. And so, you know, there are brief moments of success that this episode has. A lot of, as Muir points out in his commentary, and I didn't even catch, I mean, I was just so fighting through the story narrative as it is unfolding. Not much continuity in terms of miniatures working against the live action. Even the eagle, apparently I think there was 2 different eagles used. One that has, I don't know, it's boosters or whatever. I guess if you're really super paying attention, you catch it. And I just didn't catch it. So as a final polished product, I guess they struggled to make this thing as polished as it could have been. But the real story behind this episode is what happens behind the scenes, or you know, with. So the cast really hated this episode. They hated the writing. Koenig, in fact, according to the IMDb trivia, Koenig, Martin Landau, almost quit the series. He almost quit because this episode was just so poorly written, but chose ultimately not to at the last moment because of what it might mean to the rest of the cast members in terms of their livelihoods if this show just went under. So he decides to stick it out. The director, actually, Ray Austin, gets into an argument a few times with Catherine Schell as she's trying to deliver a line. She just starts laughing. And he has to get onto her, you know, be professional. And she's like, I am being a professional. What am I to do with a script that's bad, or, you know, lines that I have to deliver like this? And so there was just a lot of unsettledness on the set with the cast. And of course, this is Freiberger, right? This new producer, who believes in himself more than anyone else believes in him, which is probably why he saved, or at least got one or a couple seasons left out of something. He knew how to tap into certain things. This is a show that is well liked by many fans. It's not one of my favorites, but Freiberger did have a talent at this, even if it didn't mean giving a really good product, at least good in the sense of what we're used to with year one, right? But the irony of Martin Landau's issue with Freiberger is not alone. Leonard Nimoy, I was reading too, in season 3, and The Children Shall Lead, also got into it with Freiberger because I think it was, again, script issues or whatnot. So Freiberger had a knack for unsettling people with what they thought was a product that was falling well short of the mark. But then again, Freiberger, he knew what he was doing, he knew he was after, and he probably understood that all they were going to get is one final year out of this show, and it was going to be done probably. And so he was just trying to squeeze out as much as he could. Unfortunately, you have a cast in with Martin Landau. You know, he pretty much just, from what I see in IMDb, rode this thing on autopilot the rest of the way. And so I hope not. I hope there are some really good shows still out there that will be really, really good. This episode had potential, but I think Ray Austin's way out of this one was to create something that flirted with horror much more and really made this a horrifying thing. One that made you forget all the other stuff. And it just didn't go far enough, I don't think. In the end, they are able to pull themselves out of the situation, of course, right? And as they're going to make their way out of there, they do decide to drop the nucleotide crystals into the clouds in order to regenerate the rain cycle, thus replenishing life for these living organisms that live on this planet. And so it leaves on a good note, right? So interesting, but I don't know. I didn't really get a whole lot out of this one. And it's too bad that Ray Austin, you know, kind of flew the coop after this one. He apparently, even though he was trying to hold the line in terms of production, he also was not too keen on what Freiberger was asking for. And so, yeah, now that we know where we're probably at, it's, you know, really going to have to probably work hard to get as much. But I thought I would share, you know, it's negative and stuff, and I hate sharing a lot of negative stuff, but it does create some interesting ideas about the show, where it's headed. And it's unfortunate that it only got one full year as a UK production, that it couldn't have just somehow been expanded to another year or two. But I'm seeing that with old shows. Like, I think Battlestar Galactica was only 1 year, the original series. Of course, Star Trek only 3, and to my surprise, The $6 Million Man went, I think, 5 years. And even so, that's not as long as you would want a show to run. Another show that I was just, as a kid, just amazed by. Had the Steve Austin action figure that was like really big and all that, where you could look through his eye and stuff and think you were seeing further or whatever. I don't know. But anyways, Space 1999. All that glisters, a bit of fool's gold for our heroes of Moonbase Alpha, in more ways than one, as we see with this. Hopefully the next one holds better. But we are leaving disc 1 officially and moving back into disc 2 to ride that one out. Hopefully there's not a lot of bouncing around. We can just ride through the disc and continue on our way. But it is episode 29. This will not last forever. Eventually I'm going to have to figure out what I'm going to do post Space 1999. I've got some thoughts, but I'll just continue to work those things out over time. Anyways, hope you enjoy. Thank you for the support. Bulldogs back-to-back national champions. My Bills barely survived the other day. That's all I really can say about that. Just, it's getting harder and harder to watch the NFL football anymore. I'm such a college fan anyways, but it's, the NFL's a product. I'm glad my Bills survived, though. They at least get a chance to play in the divisional round, but they got a lot to clean up. Hopefully they can and do well. Anyways, as always, we end these things off. Of course, go Bills.